Well, I suppose there are excuses for staying inside at this time of the year dreaming about the summer. The cold, the rain, the snow and the wind, to name but one. But us proper gardeners know that the winter season itself is reason enough to get outside in the garden. There's plenty to do, of course, and plenty to see too. The snowdrops, the aconites, the irises, the hellebores, the viburnums and lots more are all looking great at the moment. But unlike the spring and the summer, of course, you don't get that mass show. You've really got to search out your pleasures.
Who said the garden was dull in winter? It's full of interest. Delicate tracery of branches, subtle colours enhanced by winter light, and that special quality, scent. And what could be better for colour and scent than the witch hazels? Most of us are familiar with the Chinese version, but there's some other particularly good forms. This is pallida, and it's easy to see why it's so popular. Large flowers with a delicate sulphur colour, and a scent that's sweet but faint. Goldcrest really lives up to its name. The base of the petals are suffused with red, and this gives the whole shrub an orange appearance when the buds are opening. Its scent is sweet and very strong. This is a real surprise. Hamamelis Diane is not only scented, but it has red flowers. It really looks stunning when it's planted against a backdrop of the yellow varieties. All the witch hazels turn a beautiful golden yellow during autumn, and they're very easy to grow, providing your soil's not too alkaline and it doesn't dry out completely during summer. If you're addicted to scent and you've got a bit more room, then the winter sweet is a real must. Its scent is sweet and clear, quite invigorating, but it can make rather a large, untidy shrub, so it's best planted towards the back of the border so the scent can waft through the other plants. Scent's not the only feature of the garden at this time of year. Colour's also very important. These cornus have been specially grown for their colourful stems. But at the end of March, all this beautiful stem growth will be cut back really hard, thereby forcing the plants to put on a lot of new strong growth. And this has the better colour. How about this for dramatic winter colour? The birch trees are ideal for dry soils, and they have a unique charm with their pale, peeling bark. This has to be one of the whitest of all, yet some are red and coppery, and there's even one that's shaggy in appearance. It's not only the birches that have interesting bark colour, there's a whole group of aces that are pretty spectacular. These are known as the snakebark maples, and this particular one has white diamonds covering the trunk. But it's the coralbark maples that are really stunning, and you can see how they got their name. Unfortunately, though, it's quite weak and slow growing, but it can be pruned and trained into a multi-stem tree, and then it looks really striking. Some trees don't require any such training. This is the corkscrew hazel. It was discovered in the mid-19th century by the local vicar in a Gloucestershire hedgerow. It's a personal favourite of mine. I really like the winter silhouette that it makes. It's ideal for growing in a pot or container, and it really should be grown in more gardens. Of all the shapes and colours in the garden, this eucalyptus has to be the most elegant and eye-catching. It just goes to show that with careful choice of texture, colour and scent, even in winter, the garden can become an inviting place.
A good hoarfrost in the morning turns Barnsdale into a magical place. Every drop of moisture becomes a glistening crystal, and every blade of grass a sword of ice. With all this at home, who needs Lillehammer? When it warms up, of course, the frost disappears, but by then it will have done its job. It'll turn lumpy soil into a lovely fine tilth, and it will also kill a lot of the pests that would otherwise eat your plants. And you can help here too. Now, underneath the soil at this time of the year, there will be lots of slugs, eggs and baby slugs. So if you keep the hoe going through the borders as much as you can, you'll turn them up to fall prey to the frost and to birds too. Now, there's no doubt that the best slug eater of all is the thrush, but unfortunately they're a bit in decline at the moment, so we must really encourage them. Now, one thing you can do is to plant berried shrubs and trees like this Cotoneaster. Now, a few weeks ago this was absolutely covered with berries, but now the birds have completely stripped it, as you can see by these sprigs, and good luck to them. Well, there's actually just one that they've missed down here. So now I shall feed them artificially. Not too much dry bread. The best bet, without doubt, is a proprietary bird seed put into a special feeder like that. And there's one other thing you can do to help the thrush too. If a thrush picks up a snail and it's got nowhere to smash its shell, then it'll fly off and it could possibly drop it and then not come back again. So if you've got a place that's infested with snails, like the bottom of this wall, for example, do a bit of work study and make sure that you've got a big stone there to act as an anvil for the thrush, and then it'll very quickly polish off the lot. And don't forget, too, that you can invite a lot of birds into your garden at this time of the year with bird boxes. And now's the time to put them up because they're house hunting at the moment. This is for tits, and it's made out of concrete and wood shavings, so it breathes, and that's very good for the birds. Now, the Romans used to plant holly near their houses to ward off evil spirits, and we can plant them to ward off burglars. Incredibly, there are over 400 species of holly all around the world, some of them nothing like our own native with the spiky green leaves and red berries that we associate with Christmas. Well, Adrian Bloom has beaten the birds to the berries with this small selection.
The common holly is not only native to the British Isles, but also to Western and Southern Europe and surrounding the Mediterranean. So as you can imagine, it is fairly tolerant of heat, but not of severe cold. It will put up with salt winds and is very good near the seaside, as well as being tolerant of alkaline and acid soils too. Of the varieties available to the British gardener, the most effective in the winter garden are the variegated forms. These have arisen as sports or mutations from the greenleaf varieties, and come in all shapes and sizes, and with smooth or prickly leaves. This is a form of the common holly, and it's known as the silver hedgehog holly. You can quite easily see how the name hedgehog was applied to it, because it's got these spikes at the end of the leaves, all clustered and dense together, more or less built up on top of the leaf. It's also got a silver edge, and it's very prickly indeed. I've got it in my garden. I can tell you it makes a wonderful bush, quite slow growing, and can be pruned and kept quite small too. It's a pity in a way that some of these hollies, almost like dwarf conifers perhaps, has such complicated and often very difficult Latin names. I mean, for instance, why call this Ilex aquifolium flavescens when it has a really nice common name, the moonlight holly. There are very few pure golden varieties, and this one will scorch as a young plant, but it makes a beacon in the garden in wintertime in a sunny position when it does get established. It's got prickly leaves, it's a female, fairly slow growing, but it really has this sort of glow about it, which really gives a tremendous effect throughout the winter period. Although there are many female forms with beautifully painted foliage, smooth or spiky leaves, and often a profusion of berries, there is one male that is dark and handsome, a veritable supermodel. This is Ilex equifolium ovata aurea, and this is indeed an outstanding foliage plant. Right from the leaf here, which you can see is ovate, lightly spined, but this lovely golden margin round and a deep green centre. It's also got lovely purple stems here as well. And to end it up, to really prove that it is a male form, if you look down here, you can see the male flower buds forming for next year. There are so many variegated hollies, it's impossible to show them all, of course, but this is one of the best, and we've left this till last. It's got a terrible name, Argentea marginata pendula, also known as Perry's weeping silver holly. It is pendulous, as you can see here, and of course it's got this variegated foliage. It does have fruit, though not abundantly so, and although you can see this pendulous branch from one shrub here, you can actually train this plant on a standard and then let it come down, very much like a mushroom. It really can make quite an effective garden specimen. In America, hollies have to be a lot hardier to survive, and recent introductions have been the blue holly hybrids. Romantics might think of the Smoky or Blue Ridge Mountains. These mostly female varieties have a blue tint to the glossy foliage. But they call them Blue Angel, Blue Princess and Blue Girl. Those, of course, were the fruiting forms. And in fact, I've cut some here earlier in case you think there's no berries on any of these. The birds have had some of those. But they do fruit very well in our climate and therefore are really worth having in the garden. There are also deciduous varieties of hollies that keep their berries after the leaves have fallen. That's if the birds haven't been there first. And the Japanese dwarf evergreen hollies, Ilex crenata, that look more like box or privet. Golden gem is a valuable form in winter, growing into a compact, low shrub. Whether your holly is smooth, sharp, painted, or just minimalist, this old plant will continue to fascinate the gardener and collector for years to come.
Yes, you've really got to plant a holly, even if it is just for Christmas. But this Christmas, I was going crackers over nuts. There's nothing quite as nice as the good old English hazelnut. And of course they make very good garden plants as well, particularly at this time of the year. Just look at the catkins on this one. Now this is the most commonly grown variety called Kentish cob. Well actually this is the French variety of Kentish cob and it's called Langue d'Espagne, which, just to confuse you, means long Spanish. But this is virus-free, so it's probably a little bit better than Kentish cob. There are quite a few new varieties coming in now, and the Americans have bred this one. It's a cross between the Turkish tree hazel and the ordinary hazel, and the Americans have done well with naming this one too, because they call it, wouldn't you know, the Trazel. But it does produce good nuts and makes a lovely tree. Now, of course, apart from good garden plants, you can also grow your own crop of nuts. You do need 2 trees for pollination, and the one big snag is that, certainly here, the squirrels always get them before you do, but there is a way of defeating them. You've got to plant the trees at least 15 feet away from any other trees, because a squirrel can jump from tree to tree round about 7 or 8 feet. But then, of course, they can also scramble up the trunk. So what you do is this. You grow the trees as a standard with a stem something like 6 feet high, and then as the nuts are beginning to fatten, you wrap the tree around with a bit of rigid plastic. This is actually a corrugated cloche. The squirrels can't get a grip on that, so they leave the nuts alone for you.
Do you come out here very often in the winter, Andrew?
I do as much as I can, but if the weather's not fine, I look out the window all the time because there's lots to see.
Doesn't this dull, gloomy winter light put you off coming outside in the winter?
Not totally, but imagine on a really fine day how beautiful it is when the sun's low on the horizon and so it casts really strong shadows, and especially the trellis here, which is built really to show the shadows in winter.
Is it painted, or is this a natural colour?
Well, it's stained originally dark green, but then on top we've got this beautiful algae which has come, in the winter especially, it's damp and the algae really loves it.
It's just the sort of thing that you don't notice in the summer.
Well, partly because it semi-disappears in the summer. It gets much paler, it's much drier, of course. So in the winter, it's the rich green that looks so good.
But this is the time of year when we notice the textures and all the little things which are completely lost in the summer.
That's right.
Like the bark on this very old tree.
Yes, that's my favourite tree. Of course, we've designed the whole garden around this tree. And as you say, the bark looks great, but look at the moss on it as well,
Yes.
which really flourishes in the winter.
Almost tactile.
Mm.
You've got your own miniature avenue here.
This is my delusion of grandeur, Liz. I thought that if they could have a pleached lime avenue in stately homes, I could have it in my own little garden as well.
So you've planted them all at regular intervals.
Well, they're regular now, but I've got to say that when I started, I miscalculated, and I got the spaces wrong. And I put them all in, and it was wrong, and they looked wrong too.
Did
So I
it
had
feel
to-
wrong as you walked through?
Felt wrong. They've got to have regular spacing. And what looks good is the rhythm of an avenue like this, even in a small garden, I think.
Not just the rhythm, but I think people often feel they must put conifers in for green in the winter. But actually these seem to me to have their own beauty, especially as you look up.
Yeah, and I like the change of seasons. I mean, in the summer we sit on the bench over there and look through towards the church, through this sort of dappled leaves. It's brilliant. I love deciduous trees, really, and the difference between winter and summer is so good.
And in the spring?
In the spring, well, we underplant lots of narcissi, which are just poking through, and they're followed by hostas. The trouble with the limes, they take a lot of water from the soil, a lot of moisture, so even the hostas get a bit dried up.
You use every inch of wall space here as well, I notice.
Well, in a small garden, you've got to use everything you can. I've got mahonias trained against the wall behind us, and just here, this is Japanese wineberry, which looks good in winter because of its red stems.
Got a little bit of sun all of a sudden.
Isn't it lovely on this herbaceous border?
It's certainly bringing out a lot of different browns in these stems, but you're very brave to have left your herbaceous plants.
Well,
Most of us cut them down and tidy up.
I love to leave them right through to the spring. There are two reasons, really. They look so good with frost on them in the winter, and also it protects them, the bottom of the plant, from the frost.
But you've kept the plants tidy by staking them up.
Well, you can't really see the supports. That's the idea. They're supported by bamboos, which are painted dark green, so it's meant to merge into the background.
Very unobtrusive. You've mentioned the dead seed heads, and these alliums do look very striking. But I just don't believe you. I don't think that they grew here.
I must say, it's in your honour, Liz. I do it whenever anyone comes to the garden in the winter. I get these dried alliums and I stick them in to fill the spaces that are a bit empty in the winter, because I love alliums. They look so decorative as seed heads.
So you dry them in the summer and hang them up ready
right.
to put outside in the winter?
And they're very fragile, actually. The first wind will blow them to bits, so they won't last very long if you leave them out. But I bring them out specially.
Very sneaky. But why not?
Why not? Yeah.
Got a couple of smallish trees on this lawn, presumably to replace your old apple if it ever goes.
Well, I love trees, of course, but in a small garden, they can be a problem. They can get too big, and I think you've got to be fairly brutal then and replace them if necessary.
This
and
one's
this
just
one,
coming into flower.
coming into flower, it's nearly in the middle of its flowering, Liz. It's actually been flowering 3 months already, and it's got another 3 months to go. It's one of my favourite trees. It's autumn flowering cherry. Here we
6
are.
months in bloom.
Mm-hmm. And not only that, it's got good autumn colour. I sound like an advertiser for the tree, but it really is one of my favourite trees.
So when you entitled your book Performance Plants, that's the sort of thing you must have meant.
Exactly. A tree that lasts right through the season. Six months of the year in flower, the rest of the year looking perfectly good.
What other performance plants are there?
Close to the house, I put Euphorbia Caracias wolfenii. It's my favourite performance plant. And I grow it near the house because it's a bit tender and it gets a bit of warmth from the house. But look at it now in winter, mid-winter, and it's already looking like spring.
How long is it going to stay in flower for?
Well, you can see the flowers are just beginning to work their way open. And they'll be fully in flower in about April, May. And then it'll go on till June, July before I chop them off. They begin to look a bit ragged. And it looks great. So for about 6 months in the year.
And that's the new growth coming up underneath it.
That's next year's flowers. I mean, it's such a treat, this plant. It's always doing something for you.
Never really goes away.
Never gives up, yeah. Unless it gets frosty, that's the danger. This is the first year I've done winter pots. I used to just put my pots away in the winter, expect them to crumble in the frost. But I've got frost-proof pots. And inspired by Rupert Golby and what he does with pots, I've put together all these shrubs which look good in winter, the skimmias, and there's a Hamamelis over there, witch hazel.
And it smells nice.
Great.
Every so often you just catch a whiff of it.
And just near, that's why I put it near the house too, because from my bedroom window we can smell it in the mornings. And that's the thing about winter gardens, that you have little incidents that are really concentrated. Lots of little incidents in the winter, that's the best thing.